This is the final project video for the game design class Fusion one. This is the main slash in-school course I've been making for the past month or so. So it's time for me to present it. Else, I do have a dedicated list here for the course that I have to go through. And so we'll start with the stars and go until the finish lines over there. So, starting off, we have the starting area right here. It has a bunch of trees, which I will note that um, there are a couple of these indirects where it's like, I know the instruction said to like show all the hierarchy, but for like this tree row, which encompasses all the trees in there, it is just like 40-ish copies of the exact same model, and so I don't think it's that useful to see all of it. And this is also the this is also a couple of prefabs I use in this. It has the base logs, that log, and a bunch of cubes for leaves. You know, nothing special. I showed it off before, but yeah, the more important thing is the campfire, which is actually important because it gives off the starting lights of the area, as you can see. However, the campfire is by itself sort of a prefab. I made it in Blender, and so it converted all this to it when I opened it within Unity. So the tree is definitely a prefab, but you could also count this and other models that I made as prefabs under that same condition. Regardless, the important thing that I need to know is the lights. Way too close. As you can see, not only does it give off particles to imitate the sort of cinders and sparks coming off of a normal fire as best as I could, but it also does have the light. It also does have the light status where it has the point and it shows light around it. It's the most standard one, but I do think it is important because it was also the first one I made within this short little game, as a Ranger 50 and all that. It also does have audio, which I'm not sure we can hear now, but we will hear later, where he'll do some fire cracking when we get to around this general area. You'll see when I get to that portion, but it is quite interesting. Moving on ever so slightly, we have the street lamps. This one's crooked because I thought it looked neat, but I will have to look into this. It has all the cone parts. And then, oddly enough, for this one, the lights isn't actually what's projecting the light, it's the light holder. I'm not sure why I did it like this, but it got results. This is a unique source of light because if you compare it to like the other ones. This one is pure white. It is meant to guide the players to like, hey, this quote unquote door is important and where you should go. So yeah, it just does all those light things. It also has this small particle effect where it's supposed to be like I was going for like a dust in the air type effect where sometimes you can see little speck of dust near street lamps if you're dusty enough, but I don't think I really did it because I couldn't figure out how to do like an anti-grav sort of particle system where they just spewed out and lingered there for a second, but I do think it's a decent attempt at trying to mimic it. And I think for the left street lamp is applicable to the right street lamp because this is another prefab that I made in Blender. Onwards to the door, which I didn't do the hierarchy correctly for this one specifically. The hierarchy is that the door is basically, for one of the requirements, it was to make a movable object that you have to basically interact with. And a door was the most easiest thing. There is, I did want to be like a separated door where it's like it has two hinges on here and then it would open up to where you would then like just have a door piece on the side here and door piece on the side here, but obviously that didn't happen because I couldn't figure out how the hinge ones worked and all that. But it does work. I will also be skipping a little bit in requirements to show off the normal map. See, this is the normal map texture. If we go to SS, this is brick NM, and this is the base one that's used for the texture. It's basically used on this wall type, specifically all throughout the maze to give a sort of depth as to like bricks that were on the on the wall. I it Honestly it was messed up, but as I went along with the project, it has grown a certain charm to me. Like it's like obviously it doesn't look correct, but it does have a certain sort of charm as a bit off-putting, if that makes sense. And if we look at a wall like this one, typically it's has them all the way around them in different sizes and shapes. Well, not shapes, but you get what I'm saying. Go back to the door. I mean, okay. So sorry for that. Going on into the maze, we have a. I never really understood this part, but we have prefabs. It's like this is a basic torch that I made and placed like 18 of them around the general area to act as general lighting and all that. And it has the obviously the piece of wood for a spark and the piece of light that also gives off the same campfire effect and sound effect as it, but also acts as the light source that if we look at it, it is quite different because not only is it yellow, but it's meant to be in a generally bigger area because it's meant to lead people throughout the maze. And obviously, all the different copies also have similar things. I'm not sure why there's a copy of the base of of the iconosphere. I'm not sure what I was doing during the time of making that model, but it's there. I think this is also a good place to show the audio source. No, I'll do that for the next one. I was going through the general maze a little bit. Obviously, it does have maze features like dead ends and whatnot. I'll discuss this thing at the very end, but this is the technical first obstacle that the player could face. It's basically just generic hole parkour where you just jump from piece to piece and then you get here, find out you've been tricked, and then jump back. And so over here, hey, what a coincidence. Jump over here and you see that we have our fourth type of light source. And what is this one? It's a skull platform. This one is also a pseudo, also a pseudo skull platform. Look at that. It's actually open up in yet or whatnot. I also made this some Blender. This was supposed to be like a stick post where you would then where people in a TP like stance and then you would be able to put a fire on the top of it. This is it's sort of close to what I did in like 10 minutes of the base. But yeah, this is obviously a skull. I'm not in Blender, the teeth and the skull parts are pure whites, but they are, I'm not sure why they didn't translate correctly. It has the nose and eye divots. It has the generic orange balls for the fire. And it does have a flattened head because I wanted the ability to use those platforms, obviously. And so I need a flat surface for the player to more appropriately stand on. If we look at the eyes, then this, I disabled this light a little bit earlier because it just wasn't using it, but you can also see it is producing a small amount of particles. I I don't really think it matters this much because they are so small that you wouldn't be able to see them if you weren't properly looking at them, but I think it's a nice visual detail to look like they're flying fire and all that. And if we look at the other one, this one actually is being active in all the pieces as a spot type lens. And I'll show it off in a second, but it's actually I'll show it now. The basic idea of this platforming obstacle is that you jump from this skull to this skull to this skull to this skull to this skull and over the wall. And see how I did with the lights is that, as you can see, each of the skulls has their back or a part of their face illuminated, and that's because each of the skulls is actually pointing towards the next one with your lights. So if we look at skull platform with the non-number, and you look at their eye, and you can see that it goes on to the next skull platform and with an intensity of 1000 because that's just the basis I said, I guess. And then shows up on the skull platform indicating that that's the next place that you should jump to. And so on and so forth with all the other ones. there's also a from the base skull platform, there is a sound effects where I think this is the best place to show it because, well, I also forgot to mention that the street lamps also had their dedicated sound effects to listen to, but I really want a sort of spooky vibe for this area, for this obstacle specifically, and so I made it so that it would play some generic whispers that I found on freesound.org, where there's sort of spooky little chants, and I did all of my audio with a linear roll up and min and max distance. And it was just the easiest one for me to use, and I wasn't trying to do anything fancy. And so we jumped over the pits, and then we get to the next obstacle, if you can call it that. It's basically a tightrope type area. Now, I wasn't really planning on this one, but a happy little accident was that due to the way I made it, the lights don't really work on this bridge, and so the light that the player produces, which we'll see in a second, but that's the way you have to navigate it. And this is a normal floating platform from this is the first obstacle that I made. So it has a diverting path to nothing because I wasn't very creative. Then we add this diverting path where if you go down here through the treacherous terrain, you get into another dead end. But I do think this could have been a lot more spookier, but I do think it does give a good general idea of what I was going for. Obviously, you keep on going down here, you compound the true last obstacle where it is more floating platforms where you have to jump on and go to the next one. I think it's this one, this one, this one, and then this one. If they look on here, it's like visual differences. And then from the end here, it's just one long sprint to the dark to get to the finish end and to an empty grass field. Sorry. Anyways, as I mentioned before, there is this thing underneath the entire maze, and this is the basically a platform to catch a player when they fall in because without it, you would just fall forever. And I don't think people really want to do that. And the original idea was to get lava pits around here where if you touched it, you would die. And so, say you biffed it here, then you would go right back here. And so you'd retry again and again. Or worst case scenario, you would die and then you would have to go back here again. But I couldn't get the teleporting scripts to work, and so we just left with this platform that vaguely says you shouldn't touch it. I also do think the material for that platform is pretty cool, but that's also personal bias and whatnot. However, and like I said, the final type of fire of light is in the Claire themselves. So I should also temporarily go to explain the canvas. This one is basically when you touch the finish line, which was given to me by the course creator, it would pop up this message that says you win and whatnot. For the fourth type of light, we have the atmosphere lights. So, what the hell's going on? Anyways, so this is just a ram spear in the air. If we untag it and turn on full bright, then you see it's pretty dark. And there's also basically nothing to do to look at half the time. And I thought it could be a bit spookier than that, and so I turn it on, and now it has a red ominous vibe to the whole maze. It also does work because it gives an idea of the maze walls when the lights aren't there, which is very helpful. Well, that should be about it for the terrain options. Finally, we have the player. This player, in comparison to probably most of the projects, is that it's a first person character, and as such, the main camera and the player are just stuck together, meaning that both those parts which I was supposed to show are both just here now. I think it's useful for us to discuss them at the end because I'll just go straight into playtesting like this. But obviously, this part is it helps call the camera. This controls all the variables for it. This sprint speed is supposed to be 35. I put it to 200 for testing because, sorry, because that's just the way I thought. Because I turned to 200 because honestly, redoing the maze a bunch of times was getting tedious and whatnot. But importantly, as we as I'll show in a second when we go into the game, the player also produces a sort of lights. I always had this idea because in horror games you're typically given a light so that even if it's dark you still have somewhere to navigate. And so now you have a way to look at where you're jumping and whatnot just by having this sort of halo around you. And finally, we have sorry, the third person character base Armstons. It's like, there's nothing much to say. It's the base Armstons from the third person character, just slapped onto the first person character. Well, not really slapped on because there's a pretty significant gap here for the to accommodate for the to accommodate for when you look down. It's we'll see in a second, but a second. I think this is about much more as I can truly do. Slides. So now we're just exploring through. As you can hear, the campfire is making campfire noises and whatnot. It'll do that all around the perimeter of it. These lights also give off both the particles and the sounds. Let me see. It's a low buzzing sound, which I think was appropriate because unlike the campfire and the torches, which we'll see in a second, it is more mechanical in nature. So then we have the mighty door, which we go up and slam our bodies into because I couldn't figure out how to make it like fall flat or something. I could just up the mass a lot, but it also made the entire process a whole lot longer. I'll show off the torch under a different light, and I forgot to look down, but yeah, this is the player. It has animations, it has the character model and all that. I honestly, I will say that I'm pretty sure the animation is broken because of the way I made the game. Somehow, I remember during like the first showing of this game when I was supposed to show the character model moving around and the thing and all that, it just kept on stumbling and randomly jumping throughout. And so I'm not entirely sure that's also not what's happening here. Obviously, I can't see it because of limited perspective. I also do think that regardless of what I did, this was always going to be some of the same result because there's only so much you can do to look upon the model in this perspective. Like, I can't see the back, I can't see the sides and all that. So, yeah. But obviously, you can also see that I'm producing a light around me that helps guide me throughout the trials, maze, whatever you want to call it. You can also see that the the normal map in combination with the lights, with the atmospheric light that is somewhere up there. You can see how it's helping guide me throughout the maze. We go down here, there's the torch. Let's see. Oh no, I fall into the hole by accident. And you can sort of see on the map, I could have like made a bunch of more walls to make sure it doesn't show through, but that was honestly a bit too tedious for me. And so as you look upon, you can't really you can jump onto the main platform from here if you get just right. I shut it off a second ago, so it shouldn't be this hard. There we go. You jump over here, jump over here, jump over here, and then you see there is a dead end. I do think this one is a bit more troublesome in comparison to the other ones because you just basically have to do leaps of blind faith, but it is what it is, I suppose. Going over here to the correct routes, just slowly going through. As you can see, this is the reason why I often speed at 200, but this is the torch that is several times bigger than me. And if you can hear in comparison to the campfire, it's a lot less soundful, I guess you could say. But I came in and out of that one. But we go to the one where I said we would skip. Oh, well, I'm not sure if it's just like I got bad ones or if they're just not working for this specific run through, for instance, but it is supposed to show off the sound emissions, where it's a campfire, but much less. So, that makes sense. Of course, this is the scholars. This area is ironically the creepiest because I'm so in close proximity to this one, and that one. They all play their sounds simultaneously, and so you get really creepy whispering. And jump over here, and jump over here, jump over here, and finally a fourth spring jump over there, jump over here. And as you can see, a gap in the wall. That's funny, but yeah, you can now you have to traverse the path carefully and with patience because you can't really see anything beyond it. You have a very limited vision, obviously, because of the failsafe platform. You can just jump right back on like this, but that's not really the intention. You go onto the platform. This, ironically, this one was supposed to be an actual floating platform where it would like move, and you would have to time your jumps to get to the correct platform, but yeah, it didn't work out in the end because again, scripts, and as we can see, that place is just empty, dead air. On the topic of scripts, there was a lot more ideas I had, like having to time going in between like balls on a chain and all that, but I just couldn't pan out. Mostly because I'm not too experienced with scripts necessary to do that type of stuff. Maybe I'll revisit it someday and make like a mastered version or something. But yeah, we're going through the tunnel. It's super spooky. Walls and trees and all that. Dead end. Now you have to go back. I was tempted to put like a picture, some sort of trolley picture at the end there instead of just a torch, but I think it'll be fine. So then we keep on going throughout this, like another dead end, and to the final obstacle, which is just another platform. Go off here. Originally, this was supposed to be a bit more complex because the idea was to have like the closest platform, you just can't jump to it. But if you get to the highest one, then you can jump to it. But logistically, it just wasn't working out, unfortunately. So then we jump over here, and now it's just one big final stretch to the end. Well, that's a very interesting wall. Yeah, I guess if I really wanted to, I could refine the wall placement so that stuff like that didn't happen. But say that as we approach the end, we get UN. Just to go over the checklist to see if there's anything I missed. Yep, that's should be about it in the scene. Like I said in the like I said in the playtest, there is a lot of things I wish I could have done differently. Hell, I really wanted to make a custom model for this, where it was like a cloaked figure holding a lantern, which would obviously be the right source. He was just walking through this maze, but it just didn't pan out. While while it isn't like the best thing I've ever made, I am proud that it is like the first real Unity project I made. So I guess all in all, I really liked this course. I think I did benefit greatly from it.